right, welcome. My name is Stephen Bowles, and you're listening to the Production Channel, where we bring the very best of the production industry, whether that's interviews with lead production and staging management producers and stage callers, or audio, video, media servers, or really just down and dirty vendors and how they're kind of loading in the gear, getting everything going. At the end of the day, we're trying to bring the production industry to the industry. And so I'm joined today with Clem Harrod. Clem is a good friend of mine.
Hey.
And Clem, someone we've been working with, that I've been working with over the last couple of weeks and months on what is the production channel. And so, Clem, what is it? In your head, what is the production channel?
Well, the production channel for me is just like sitting backstage. We got that downtime. We're talking about things in life. We're talking about the industry. We're just talking about the nature of what we do, whether it be, the next show that we're on, or this cool little piece of equipment that just came in, or talking about our kids, or talking about that cool restaurant that we went to, or lounge that we went to, a bar or whatever. Techs love their dive bars. So all that, the production channel. When
Clem and I were talking about it, there's not a place that we all go to get this information. We go to Facebook and we look at the best photos or sort of shots that we took, backstage of a really cool gig we worked on. Or we, just sort of directly talk to each other backstage, but we're only seeing each other maybe once every couple of weeks, or even months, sometimes even years. And so just having a place where you can sort of channel that conversation. And so production channel, just like you think, you've got, your comm, and this is just the place where the chatter happens across the chatter happens across a lot of different disciplines, but all sort of centralized and around production, right? We're not going to sit here and talk about, food blogs or something like that. We're going to talk about what's relevant to our industry and things that matter. And when we talked about what are we going to do on episode 0, we, sort of went back and forth, and I just said, we got to do Clem. We got to get you. You are not only someone who has really traversed different verticals inside of this industry, from really sort of sports camera to lead projectionist, but also you've seen the range, everything from small load-ins and breakout rooms to really massive technology and IBM events that have 15, 25, 30,000 people in the room. So I think you've seen the industry. You also have the pulse of the industry. You really speak well about it. And
I love it. I love it.
You do. And then just knowing you and your family and that sort of balance, I think it's right. So anywho, we're going to dive right in with you, Clem, today. So with that, give us any bit of an idea, like how in the world did you even find this crazy industry that we call production?
Yeah. Well, I had somewhat of an eye for art instilled in me from my mom. She was a still photographer, she is a still photographer, and just loving the arts overall, dancing, music, all of that. So that for me, what we do in this industry is an art form. I look at what I do as a projectionist as an artist. So that is my foundation. I understand my foundation. And from there, I took a lot of television production classes in middle school. Then in high school, I went to a special high school where I studied television production for 2 of my 6 classes each year. And so understanding, and I was bused, to a specific school, and then I was able to go to Florida State from there. And at Florida State, I applied for the film school but didn't get in, which is perfect, because I thought I wanted to be a film editor.
Right.
I'm not the type of person to be in a box like that. I gotta flow. I gotta get out. I gotta feel things. I gotta be a part of, like you said, the pulse. I gotta feel the pulse of everything, not just my task. I want to feel everything.
You would never have done well as a video editor. You're in a box, in a cave, locked in there till like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Right.
Which is really no different than what you're doing now, but you're around in a massive arena and around other people. But working till 2 or 3 in the morning.
Chatting on the production channel.
Yeah.
So at Florida State, I learned how to shoot sports, and I learned how to anticipate an athlete's movement and embrace the whole production aspect of it. I was a part of, as a camera operator for Florida State football, but then from there, I was a producer and a director for basketball, arena football, ice hockey. All of this was in Tallahassee. So I learned how to so many levels of the production industry. And so I applied for an internship my senior year to everywhere, every sports team, network, broadcast, wherever, just looking for my way. And Rick Price brought me to Orlando. So I interned for the Orlando Magic in 0102. And what a great experience, because once again, I thought I wanted to be an editor.
Right.
And Rick Price was like, no, with your experience, you're going out in the field with me. You're doing the electronic field production. So I was like, all right, cool. I'll embrace it. I love it. And so September 17th of 01 is when I started my internship with the Magic. And then in February of 02 is when I had my first gig with LMG. And I remember my first gig, Steve Ulmer actually brought me in. He recommended me and made those connections for me, and I started right in with a Ernst & Young loadout.
So you went from, so that's fun. So you basically, like I think a lot of people did, I as well started doing TV production in high school, and then you sort of just kind of running that out, and you're like, well, there's no way I'm going to be a banker, so you just kind of kept pursuing that. But like often, people don't exactly know how TV production is directly going to translate into the real world, right? So how do you actually move that? And so you put both a line in on sports with Rick Price with the Orlando Magic, which is awesome. I want to hear more about that in a second. But then you also put a line in with just traditional kind of freelance corporate events, because LMG is a rental and staging house based out of Orlando, but nationwide. And so you started at load-ins, which is a very common thing. That's awesome. So then I guess just tell us how that went. You're both building up your sports career and you're building up your sort of freelance corporate event projectionist career.
Yes.
How did you do those together at the same time?
Well, what I didn't mention was I was also doing news at the same time.
What?
Yeah. I mean, because when you're first starting off, you have to pay the bills. You have to have money in your pocket, and you're just trying to find your way. You don't know how this industry works, so you're just trying to figure out. You're figuring out your way, your niche, and figuring out a place for you to fit in. And so, the news was just a temporary thing. I knew that wasn't my heart's desire. That's not where I wanted to be, but I had to do what I had to do to get where I wanted to go. And so I'm running these. At one point, it was three businesses, or three parts of me were running parallel. One was going a little faster than the other, and as one started to take off a little more, then I let go of the news. So the news was the first to go, and then now I have sports, which I was doing the Magic, doing the Rays. I was doing Orlando Sentinel varsity sports, high school shoots. I was doing every single thing just to continue to get my foot and my name and known, but also building up my skill set. So the same thing was going on the corporate side. So I'm doing load-ins, load-outs, breakout rooms, little bit of camera utility, or cable page as it's called, barely doing some camera work, when it's like the whole time I'm like, I know camera, I can do camera, right? But those weren't the jobs that I was being offered.
Well, and there's a big difference between camera work in sports versus camera work in corporate. Not necessarily just in the gear, but one mindset. Yeah. One is, and not to limit or ever sort of box in what corporate events, camera operators do, because they're essential. I mean, my background's live video director, so I built significant relationships with a whole bunch of freelance camera ops and couldn't do it without them. But one is way more active than the other, right?
Yes.
You would be underneath the hoop at a Magic game, feet away from these professional athletes, which is just
getting
that
run
right
over
there.
by these professional athletes.
Exactly, getting run over for them. That's right. So it's just a little different than, a CEO on the stage. But
yes.
All right. So then, recently, you really and have kind of moved entirely towards projection.
Yes.
So tell me about that. Why now? And really, how specifically have you moved from doing just a load in every once in a while to make another extra couple of bucks to a career as a professional freelance projectionist?
Right. So there was a need, Basically, there was a need, and I would get phone calls and emails. Hey, are you available these dates? And I look at my calendar and I say yes. I would either be wide open or I would have to move a couple of things around. But hey, the money was good, the opportunity was there. You say yes to the job, you take the job, and then okay, cool, you're going to be a projectionist. So you heard that pause?
Right,
you heard that pause. That's exactly what was going on in my mind. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But you take the opportunity, you figure it out, because that's what you do to pay the bills. That's what you do to work your way in. And fortunately, I had some people that were willing to show me a couple of tricks here and there, but I never had the understanding from the beginning of what it took. And so I'm taking these gigs, and year by year, gig by gig, I'm picking up skills and understanding, oh, okay, so this is what you do. This is how you manipulate the projector in order to get this result. And understanding, oh, okay, so yeah, I do see a little green in that image when I'm color balancing. So in order to get rid of that green, okay, I'll back this out, or I'll add a little of this or a little bit of that. And so just having the right teachers over the years to give me tips here and there, I've compiled them to work my way up in the industry, from just doing breakouts to doing little mini general sessions, or then glorified breakout rooms, all these little things that have led me up to to learn how to blend and be a widescreen projectionist. And then when warping came around and the curved screens, it's like that's when that real passion started to develop for the industry, and realize that I'm a professional, I'm an artist at the same time, because I can enjoy being around everybody else when we're building the project. But then when it comes to the warping aspect, that's when you'll see me on show site. I'll set up my little workstation, I'll set up my candle, I'll put on my my little comfy pants, whatever. But that's where, for me, that's like sitting in that edit booth. That all those times where I wanted to be an editor and be to myself in certain aspects, when I'm warping, I can be to myself. I'll get in my music, I'll shut out the outside world, and I'll focus on that screen and that detail.
So that's interesting. Let's dive into specifically like the technical craft of projection, and just to kind of sort of paint a wide stroke on it. When you go to a large corporate event, anything like that, it's common now to see a super wide screen on some level, which is really made up of a series of projectors left to right, all sort of blended together. And so Clem, as a freelance projectionist, that's what he's doing. He's coming in early, he's loading in, sort of working with rigging, setting up those projectors and stuff. So tell me, because you, like you just said, you moved from load-ins to now sort of really front of the line projection, where you're dealing with curved screens, etc. You learn from event to event to event, but it's often hard to break out of what people's expectations of you are. So tell me about that. Like when curved screens came around, did you intentionally take that on as a technology or a particular like niche of production that you wanted to own and be on the front lines of? And then did that produce for you more of a demand just because now they knew Clem knew this, knew how to pull this off?
Yeah, well, it all started with a great teacher of mine, my Obi-Wan Kenobi, if you will, Phil Licari. And he and I were working on Philly. That's my man all day. And so we're working on a show in Vegas, of course, large curved screen for Chipotle. I'll never forget it. And so we're working there overnight, and his computer crashed. And he's a PC guy, and I'm a Mac guy, and so I'm just over his shoulder watching him, understanding what's going on, and just kind of picking up things, asking questions, but not too many questions, because people are in their mind, in their workspace. And so once his computer crashed, I was like, well, you can use mine. I have Barco tool set on here, and it was that learning curve, that Mac PC learning curve, that just was a little frustrating at times. And so he gave me the opportunity to get in there for a bit, and I just took it on. I embraced it. But it was just that change of a mindset of seeing the potential, understanding potential, but realizing that you can grow from here. There is a way that you can take this skill set because you have an understanding of the manipulation of the light, because that's what we're doing with projection and warping. You have an understanding of the manipulation of light and the fine details to do things and see things that other people don't. So then, because my wife is an entrepreneur as well, a very successful entrepreneur, then it's a matter of, okay, now how do you monetize this? How do you make your living off of what your gifts are? And that's where I am now, just trying to understand that, I have a skill set that is appreciated and valued at this time in the industry, and just going from there.
Take me through a recent event, right? Like one of the more recent, I think you just did one earlier this year with IBM and with Drury Design Dynamics. They're a great company, great production company. They do massive events, and IBM's really been on the front lines of really doing media servers and just sort of projection mapping really on larger canvases. But take us through really, how you engage an event weeks out or days out, and then certainly during an actual load-in. Once you're in show, kind of what areas of responsibilities, how do you sort of take a show on when people are up on the stage? What are you doing? And then as far as loadout and sort of post-event review, kind of take me through your life cycle of an event, a large-scale event.
Okay. So after I get requested to be on a show or asked if I'm my availability, I then ask the show, the name of the show, the AE, the production company, and the venue, because all these factors are important. Understanding, okay, where am I traveling to? Which venue am I going to be working in, so I can kind of go back to my memory banks. Okay, yep, I remember that ballroom. Understanding who the AE is, so I can just have that direct contact for the questions that I have to get to the the TD or whomever. And then who's a client? Okay, yep, I'm familiar, Drury. Okay, cool. So then it's a matter of understanding, okay, so Craig, I'm going to deal with Craig Muir as my AE, Drury Design, and then getting all of the necessary documents as far as the quotes, the drawings, and the schedule. The production schedule is definitely important, so that you have an understanding of the expectations of what needs to be done by when. And then once I travel to the venue, getting there and understanding the load in, which trucks are coming in, where's our gear. Now, okay, I know how many projectors I'm going to have. Now it's a matter of separating them, figuring out which lenses match up with which projectors, and what combination match up to which screen. Then getting with rigging, getting with lighting, getting with the necessary departments, so that we can then work together to understand the overall expectations and when you need your time and when I need my time. Then I'm also building the relationship with the people who are going to be helping me, with whether it be other projectionists or stagehands, and that I might be sharing with the video department as a whole. So, okay, understanding that, okay, let me knock out what I need to do, and then we'll trade off stagehands throughout the day. Getting those projectors rigged up to the truss, or if they're on scaffolding in the back, building that scaff, marking our territory, and just, it's like Lego pieces. That's how I always equate it to. Just taking those Lego pieces in a box, dumping them into a ballroom, separating those Lego pieces, which are the cases and the equipment, by departments. And then now we're coming over here in this little corner, and we're going to start building our little piece to the set. And then the other departments are building their piece. And then all of our pieces come together. Now we've got this beautiful little erector set of a display for all to enjoy. And so once the projectors are rigged, screens are up, and I'm networking and checking my signal path and making sure my power is good. Got my projectors converged for the how many ever number of screens that I'm dealing with. Then we go through and color balance, making sure that the whites are true white, the blacks are true blacks, and it looks good. The client's happy. Once client's happy, we get into rehearsals. Then I'm either managing my position as the projectionist only and making sure that everything is continuing to flow properly and nothing's overheating. Everybody's happy, including the projectors. The projectors are happy.
Don't want them blowing up on you.
Don't want them blowing up on me, because if they blow up on me, then the client's blowing up on me, and then that's just not good overall.
And then you're not coming back next year.
And then I'm not coming back next year. Or, I might be running playback, or I might be running playback and or records, and that's my end show duties. And then at the end of the show, based on department order and who's coming down first, waiting for your, pulling out your cases and waiting for your projectors to come down and tear them apart. If I'm dealing with the screen, tear that apart, throw it in a case and pack it up, send it off back to the warehouse for QC to come right back out for its next show. So
tell me a little bit more about, that dual role that is often expected of a projectionist, right? So maybe not on the largest shows, because they might put a body into playback or record so that you can just focus on projection.
Right.
But certainly on those sort of small to medium, if not medium large events, the general expectation from at least the sort of corporate event production side is that you will do another role during show, but load in projection during load in. So how much of that was like a curve? You came in thinking you're just loading in gear, then you're having to figure out what these playback devices are,
right?
Or then you're having to learn the nuances of a Key Pro record or whatever. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult, especially with starting off with beta decks, and then then we would have this Excel sheet that would basically you plug in the time where the video started, maybe the duration, and then it would calculate your countdown cues, and then they had like the turbos or this qubit. I remember using this qubit system where I felt like a computer programmer getting in there and typing out certain codes in order to edit the video. You talk about a learning curve. Oh my gosh,
that was just silly.
It was troublesome at times.
Right.
Especially when you're not using this every day. You're being exposed to this piece of equipment on a gig sometimes for the first time, and then you won't see it again for almost a year or so, or sometimes you would see it all the time, but that would make it difficult. But when a product like Playback Pro came along, that's what made me switch over to a Mac, because Playback Pro was Mac based, but it allowed me to see how easy a Mac worked, and I enjoyed it. And then it's just once again playing on the computer. Then it felt more natural, it felt easier. But it can be difficult at times to have that mindset of a projectionist, but then realize that, oh hey, we need you to do playback. So this happens on shows often. I'm in projection mind, loading in, managing my team and working our goals throughout the day to get to that end result. And then I'll have a stage manager or an ASM come up to me, hey, I've got some videos for you. When will we be able to see them? And I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I'm in projection mind right now. I don't. Tomorrow, but those are some of the responsibilities that come along with running those dual roles.
I know exactly what you mean. I mean, actually in the sports and also in touring, right? Concert touring, often the person who's a rigger, right? I went on tour with Maroon 5 or Train for a series of dates, just directing cameras for them. And my camera operators during the night, during the show, were actually the riggers during the day. So that's a common thing that we see in the production industry. Whether it's the best way to do it, I don't know, but it is a common thing. Well, let's turn now towards just sort of that work-life balance, because again, you've been doing this across different genres of the production industry: sports, broadcast, and then corporate. Corporate naturally has a very freelance, travel-heavy sort of nature and culture about it, which can put a stress on family. And you and I are actually going to do a deeper dive into just work-life balance in another episode. But pass us through on that. Like, how have you found that rhythm with your family and work?
Well, you know, it took for me to fail miserably in order for me to realize that there was an imbalance. In my mind, I'm constantly thinking about that job and the next job and bringing home that money for the month and just almost a narrow-minded approach to what was going on, and not thinking about my family unit as a whole, and that my job is just a means to support my family unit. And so it became difficult when my wife was the one who was constantly, you know, on me about, look, you're gone too much. You know, I'm working 20 days a month. Then I eventually narrowed it down to 15, and now I'm trying to narrow it down to 10. But it was just that, you know, missing out on all those games or those milestones at home, or just the overwhelm that my wife was feeling, you know, as somebody who works and an entrepreneur and doing her thing, and just like missing out on the kids in general. You know, I don't want my in-laws raising my kids. I want to raise them. You know, I want to be in their lives. And so it was just a matter of understanding that, you know, my like I said, my work is to support my family. And when I was coming home and it felt uncomfortable, and it felt more comfortable to be gone on the road, that's when I realized there was a problem. That's not the work-life balance. And I was listening to another podcast, and he took the approach of, it's not necessarily a work-life balance, but a work-life integration. You know, how can the two work together, and understanding that I don't have to carry the weight all by myself. But then on the other side, because, you know, yes, my wife works as well, but there are some people out there who they're the sole provider for the family, right? But when I'm talking about carrying the weight by myself, well, my spouse shouldn't have to carry the weight of running the household by herself either, or himself, you know, whatever your situation is. But it's a matter of understanding, okay, when I'm gone, I need to stay connected to home. I have to stay connected to home, and think about what are the things that I can do while I'm gone to be connected, whether it's setting up that schedule for my son to live by, to make sure that he's helping with getting himself ready, so that then my wife doesn't necessarily have to stay on top of him every morning about do this, do that, or emailing a teacher to set up a meeting, or if my son is taking private batting lessons, staying in contact with the coach via text message. You know, there's so many little things that we can do, and you know, each person needs to think about their own situation, their own schedule, but there are things that you can do to maintain that balance of your life, of your family life while you're gone. And even if you don't have a family, you have friends, or you have things in your city that you want to do, it's a matter of just keeping up with those things, looking at the schedule of concerts that you might want to attend, or texting your friends in a group, you know, a little group me, text messaging group, and saying, hey, I'll be back in town this day, let's make sure we get up. You know, just planning out your life so that your work and the road life doesn't become your life.
It's true. I mean, hey, I always say I took a couple month hiatus from gigging and met my wife, and we got married. So it's just like, the fact is that if all you do is the work, then you will miss out. There's things that are going to get sacrificed on. So yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, we're going to jump into that another episode.
Yeah, that's going to be a good episode.
That's going to be good. All right. Well, let's take just another minute here. I want to hear about Projection 101. What in the world is it? I've heard rumors. You've mentioned it to me. I've heard other people kind of like you've been hearing about it. I've seen the hashtags in your Instagram. So just give us a taste of what Projection 101 is in your mind.
Yeah. So, you know, Projection 101 for me it's not just a course. It's not just a class that I'll be taking, but it's a lifestyle. So understanding what it took for me to get into this industry, and understanding where the demand was. They need a projectionist. Okay, I'll take on that role, but I didn't know how to do it. So Projection 101 is a course that I've developed to help people who are stagehands, or just beginning projectionists, maybe a projection assist who wants to become a projectionist, full-time projectionist, setting up that structure for them to understand what it takes to be a projectionist, and understanding that step-by-step process of, first from being put on onto a show, for the entire load in, before that, from the entire pre-production process to the load in to striking. There are steps that you can take to help you to easily transition from that position that you're in to the position that you want to be. Now, when I say that Projection 101 is a lifestyle as well, it's also a matter of seeing yourself in one place in your life and seeing where you want to be, and understanding that you can be an architect of your own life and plan out the steps to get to where you want to be. But that's a whole nother course. But if you are a projectionist as well, and you want to move beyond that basic level, or you are doing certain skills and you feel that you are into the blends and stuff like that, but you want to sharpen your skills in other avenues, there's also individual coaching that I'll be offering as well, to help people to, like I said, to sharpen their skills, to become a master of their craft and not just be stuck in one level. We are skilled individuals. We have a niche that we can grow in and be prosperous for, not only for ourselves but for our families. And that's kind of what Projection 101 is all about.
That's awesome. I think the thing I love about it most is that it's all about sharing information, helping other people grow and learn. I think this industry is built on virality. The only way you even get a call from a random gig that you'd never worked before is because somebody suggested you. Somebody spoke out for you and said, yeah, Clem can do widescreen projection. Give him a call, he'll take good care of you. And so making sure that we are intentional about that, both in hooking people up with gigs, but also making sure that people are learning, they're growing in their craft. It's not very clear what the upward ladder looks like in our industry, because
technology is ever changing.
Well, yeah, and because we're not all in the same corporation that has the same title hierarchy or anything like that. And so being able to just pour knowledge and skill and trade craft into people in an organized way, which is what you're really talking about, that's awesome. All right, well, we got to wrap. This has been
there's a lot of chatter on this production channel right now.
There's a lot of chat. This has been good. We this is our first one. We're gonna keep bringing you guys some just people from the industry. Again, we're gonna cover it all. We're gonna go between stage production, we're gonna go with pre-production, we're gonna go into the the media, the post, the whole sort of gamut. We'll take you through sports and broadcast, through news and back. So but just know that this is what we're here for. We are the production channel, and so whether or not you're traveling from gig to gig and you need something to listen to on the plane or while you're in the terminal, this is what we got. This is a place to come to. If you're backstage and you've got a boring CEO on the stage and he's been just kind of chattering forever, and you're going to either watch Netflix or cruise Facebook, please come to the production channel.
Sharpen your skills.
Give us awesome content. Sharpen your skills. Learn a thing. Learn something about what another person is doing in this industry. And also reach out to us. Reach out to Clem. Reach out to me. And really send us those stories. If you feel like you've got an excellent thing or a particular craft you want to share, hit us up. We want to know about it. So with that, Clem, where can they, what hashtags or whatever can they find you on Instagram?
Oh man, you can find me on Instagram all day. I'm under CLEMCO.AV. I also have a personal one, Tuvac 15 TUVAC 15, and CLEMCO.AV is CLEMCO.AV. And my hashtag Projection 101. It's a lifestyle all day.
That's awesome. All right, well, thank you so much, and tune in next time for the production channel.
Chatter.